Sound check, one, two, three. Good morning, everybody. We will start in 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Built Heritage Committee meeting of December 9th, the final meeting of 2025. I'd like to call the members to order. This hybrid meeting is being facilitated through Zoom and is being held on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, the original custodians of the unceded land in which the City of Ottawa is located. We extend our respect to all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Since this committee meeting is being streamed live on the Ottawa City Council YouTube channel, I'd like to remind participants to please keep your microphones muted until I call upon you to speak. For those participating here in the committee room, you can use the microphone in front of you and keep your computer muted. I will provide each committee member with the opportunity to ask questions or comment on each item in the order in which they raise their hand in Zoom. For panelists, the raise hand option is found at the bottom of the participants list. For those calling in, press *9 to raise your hand. The committee coordinator and I will be watching for those cues. Members are also reminded to submit any motions, visual supports, or declarations of interest in writing to the coordinator at their earliest opportunity. Although the deadlines have passed for residents to register to speak and provide written submissions to this committee, residents can make written submissions to council. A reminder that if participants are having technical issues with their Zoom connection, they may call in using the backup telephone number provided by the coordinator. At this time, we received no regrets. Could the committee coordinator please call the roll?
Councillor Kelly,
Present.
Councillor Leeper,
Good morning.
Councillor Truster,
Here.
Member Borns,
Present.
Member Legault,
Present.
Member Madigan,
Present.
Member Quinn,
Present.
Vice Chair Blount,
Ici.
and Chair King.
Here.
You have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Confirmation of minutes for the meeting of Monday, October 6th, 2025. Are the meeting minutes confirmed? Confirmed. Thank you so much. So I will proceed with a consent agenda this morning. Our first item is designation of 6019 Perth Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is correspondence from Heritage Ottawa, but there are no registered delegations. Can this item be carried on consent, or do members wish to hold for discussion and debate? Seeing no interest in that, is the item carried?
Carried.
Carried. Thank you so much. That report will be submitted to council on January 28th, 2026. The next item is application for demolition at 208 Slater Street, a property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act as part of the Bank Street Heritage Conservation District. We do have a number of delegations, so we will hold that item. The next item is conservation design guidelines for 284 King Edward Avenue. We did receive correspondence from Heritage Ottawa, but there are no delegations to date. Is there any interest in holding this item, or can this item be carried on consent? Carried. Excellent. So this report will be submitted to council on January 28th, 2026. We do have the next item is a designation of 300 Rochester Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is correspondence from Heritage Ottawa, and Heritage Ottawa is also registered to delegate. I just wanted to ask the delegate whether, if this item was carried on consent, whether a delegation would still be required. Okay. Seeing that no comments, no extra comment is required, is there any interest to hold this item by committee? Seeing none, is this item carried? Thank you so much. This report will be submitted to council on January 28th, 2026. The next item is nomination of the Byward Market as a National Historic Site in honor of its 200th anniversary. We will hold that item for presentation and delegations. So our first item is the demolition at 208 Slater Street. I'll ask staff to provide a presentation.
Good morning, Chair King, Vice Chair Plant, and committee members. Today, I will be giving a brief presentation on staff's recommendation to approve the application to demolish 208 Slater Street, a property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act located in the Bank Street Heritage Conservation District. Next slide, please. The building at 208 Slater Street is located on the south side of Slater Street, one property parcel east of the Bank and Slater Street intersection. The building, as it appears today, is a two-story red brick building with commercial storefront projections, a central carriageway, and a drive aisle leading to parking at the rear. Next slide. The building, originally constructed in 1898, has been heavily altered since its original construction in the late 19th century. The original building was a three-story brick row house with a limestone foundation and wood porches, as seen in the photograph on the left from 1956. Sometime between 1956 and 62, the third story was removed, as well as the porches, and around 1962, the storefront projections were added, as seen in the photograph on the left, or on the right, sorry. These changes have dramatically altered the character of the building, undermining the building's ability to contribute to the character of the area. Next slide. The applicant is seeking approval to demolish the existing building and create a privately owned public space, aka a POPS. So I'll be using POPS for the remainder of the presentation. During demolition, the owner will provide detailed documentation and intends on targeting a 75% landfill diversion by selling or reusing elements of selling the elements for different projects, sorry. In the interim, the owner seeks to construct a POPS in general accordance with the landscape plan on the slide. The submitted landscape plan has benches, paths, canopies, trees, and mulch. While the applicant has submitted the above landscape plan, they have indicated that they may wish to add additional animation to the site, which may include public art or amenity space such as a dog park or bocce ball court. They may also wish to work with the local BIA to create a more animated POPS. The staff are generally supportive of site improvements and are open to exploring these ideas with the applicant and internal and external stakeholders to ensure compliance with the city policies. Should changes to the landscape plan for the POPs be proposed, the applicant must submit a new plan with the changes from the original plans. These will be circulated with the CCA and the ward councillor. While the applicant has not submitted plans for new construction at this time, they have indicated that the target date for redevelopment of the property is within 5 years. Next slide. The property is a Group 3 building within the Bank Street HCD, which was designated under Part 5 in 2000 following the Central Area West HCD study. At that time, HCD plans were not required, so recommended guidelines have been used to assess this application. With no demolition policies in place, staff considered the district's heritage value, the building's contribution, and its integrity. The district's value reflects Bank Street's role as an early commercial main street. The building does not front Bank Street, was not historically commercial, and has few defining attributes, reducing its contribution. Staff and the consultant who wrote the HIA determined that the extent of alterations to the building since its construction have diminished the legibility of the original building, further reducing its contribution. Just to note, staff are currently working on developing an HCD plan according to the requirements of the OHA and anticipate bringing forward a draft report to council in 2026. The applicant understands that any new construction will require a heritage permit, a new HIA, and compliance with the designating bylaws. Staff will work with the owner to ensure compatibility, which could be achieved through materials, podium design, and possibly a contemporary carriageway. Next slide. Heritage Ottawa and the Centertown Community Association were notified of this application and were offered the opportunity to provide comments. The CCA provided comments, which are included in the staff report, and they are not supportive of this application. Neighbors within 60 meters of the property were also notified, and a notice sign was posted on the subject property on October 21st. Next slide. So staff are recommending approval of the application to demolish the building, subject to the conditions I'll detail in the next slide. We also recommend delegating the authority to the general manager of PDBS to negotiate and execute a development agreement for the design and construction of a POPs. We also want to delegate the authority for minor design changes to the POPs to the program manager of Heritage Planning and issue a demolition permit with a 2-year or heritage permit with a 2-year expiry date. Next slide. So the recommended condition of approval is that the applicant construct a privately owned public space in general accordance with the landscape plan shown previously, that the applicant enters into a development agreement prior to the issuance of the demolition permit, and that they construct the POPs within 6 months from when the building is demolished. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We do have delegations. The first delegate is Linda Hode from Heritage Ottawa.
Good morning. Thank you very much. As you will have noted from our correspondence, we support the Centertown Community Association's opposition to the demolition. We understand that demolition of this building or parts of it will certainly be the end result, but in the interim, we believe that the building should be retained, or most of it, if at all possible, and reused to animate the street. We are not very much impressed by the notion of a POP to animate the street, a commercial street, busy with traffic. There's one almost immediately next door. It's been there for many years, and it's really not very, very well used. We think that we hope that the applicant would consider restoring the building to use, possibly for pop-up retail, which has become quite popular these days. Some or all of the building, because there's a fairly an amount of building that stretches back into the area that's used for parking. It should be possible, I would think, to put a gate across the gateway using technology to allow people who need access to have access, and permitting and preventing those who don't need access. And I guess the biggest concern is the social conditions that are mentioned as being the reasons for demolition will simply be transferred to the public, some of them to the POP. And that's transferring the security risk from the private owner to the public. And the taxpayers will be on the hook for patrolling and controlling those issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. You do have a question from Councillor Troster.
Hi, thanks so much for being here. So just to be clear, I mean, if the developer has no intention to have a tenant in that building in the interim and it is now empty, your preference is for that building to sit empty versus being turned into a public space? Like if there's no way the developer is going to do that.
I guess we're wavering. Some of us would prefer just let's tear it down, do the usual fence and grass. Easier to, possibly, it would be easy, it wouldn't attract people, well, you couldn't, it's a fence. I don't know, it's a very difficult situation. We recognize that, but it's in a sense, it's rewarding demolition by neglect. And our understanding is those buildings have only been vacant for 2 or 3 years. It's not as though we're talking 10 or 20 years, as is the case sometimes.
Okay. Did you get a chance to visit Metcalfe Plaza by any chance this summer? Did you get a chance to take a look at it at the corner of Lisker and Metcalfe?
I didn't. I read about it, and I have walked through Metcalfe Plaza many times on my way to this building.
Yeah.
And that
So
was
just
before.
No, that was a really excellent example of the city working with the developer. That piece of land sat empty for a really long time, and we were able to put a deck, we were able to do activities, and it was really, really popular, and did not actually represent any of the kind of social concerns that you're referring to. Still think there's a great need in that part of the community. There is a lot of residential nearby, and there is the opportunity to do something like a community garden or a pop-up dog park or another plaza similar to Metcalfe Plaza. So just to be really clear, if this demolition is granted, the intention is not to just let it sit empty. And it seems the developer is pretty keen on partnering with the city on initiatives like that. So anyway, I can ask staff some more questions to clarify, but just to be clear, I kind of disagree with the community association on this one. I would rather see it, if it's going to be demolished anyway, and if the building's going to sit anyway, I'd rather see the land used for public use. That's my preference, but I understand that's a tricky one.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And you do have a question from Councillor Leeper.
Thanks. Good morning, Linda. I just wanted to unpack the statement you made with respect to transferring the responsibility for security from the private to the public realm. It would continue to be private property, I believe.
Yes, that would be my understanding. I don't think they're selling it or leasing it or disposing of it to the city. But I guess it will be a public space. The issues tend to be in behind the buildings, which is not all that visible. I don't know if you ever walked through the carriageway. I did. I guess it was trespass, but I thought I would like to see what exactly is happening, or what's the situation. It was hard to tell from the drawings. Okay. So it's a fairly private space at the moment, and so the.
Responsibility for trespassing individuals who might be disruptive continues to be with the private property owner, and obviously any sort of immediate threat to persons or property is going to be a police matter. But I don't think that it transfers anything from the private owner. They still have a responsibility to ensure that their space is secure, and they still maintain the ability to trespass persons from it. So. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Leeper. I think, Member Quinn has a question for you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on what Councillor Leeper was asking for clarification, it would still be the job of the city to reach out to the owner should issues arise on a POP site. The concerns, people would turn to the city to report concerns, and it would therefore be incumbent upon the city to try to notify the owner and to pressure the owner to do something. So the city's not completely off the hook, I don't think. I just want to understand the process.
Yeah, well, and I think the public who are passing by or concerned by any security or criminal issues are probably not going to be calling the owner. They're going to call the city. because it looks like a public, well, it is a public space, but it's privately owned. But I don't know how many people walking by or in the area will understand that. Perhaps some of the owners of buildings on Bank Street, which backs onto this, would know who the owner is and maybe contact them directly as opposed to the city. So it's these privately owned public spaces, I think, are a bit, well, it's unclear to most people, I think, who owns them.
Okay, thank you. I may have some more questions for staff, after this, but thank you.
Thank you so much for your delegation. I see no other questions. We do have one other registered delegation, Michael Beach, Director of Real Estate Development for Broccolini, but he has indicated that he wasn't interested in providing a formal presentation, but could answer questions, I believe, on behalf of the property owner. So I don't know if there's anybody who wants to ask questions of Mr. Beach. Councillor Troster.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here. It's a nice bicycle on the wall behind you.
Oh, thanks. I didn't realize I didn't have my fake background turned on when I turned the camera on, but now everybody knows I'm a bicycle enthusiast.
Well, it's very cool. I was just wondering if you could speak about the conversations that you may have had with the city about the use of the space should this building be demolished.
Absolutely. I had a bunch of discussions with Taylor at Quibble, and we had some interesting ideas. Obviously, the plan would be basically just a starting point for discussions. I personally am a dog person, and I see there's a lack of dog parks, especially secure, double fenced-in dog parks around here. And Ottawa seems to have a high dog population, so we could do something like that. Also, we could even do like bocce ball or even pickleball court, although that might be a bit difficult as far as the the traffic. You could probably do a giant net on top of the court, so you wouldn't have balls going into the into Slater Street. And then also, like you said, Metcalfe Plaza. I live right across the street and very animated. And I don't believe that the group that's doing that they have a designation on our particular piece of property, but there's other groups that we could work with, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But like no, the goal is to do what is safe and brings animation and vibrancy to the city. And I've lived downtown all my life, and it excites me to think of all the possibilities. So it's really just a blank canvas for us to work with the city on what they feel is appropriate or missing as a use, and to address the comments, of course, designed for safety, with lighting and security, and other ways to dissuade any kind of illegal activity would, of course, be all figured out.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I will note that if you look at the data that came out of our Street Seats program this summer in Centertown, that also created similar type plazas, it actually increased the sense of safety in the neighborhood based on everyone that we surveyed. So I really do appreciate that. Just one more question, because there was a concern from Heritage Ottawa or a request to say, hey, can we put a pop-up business in there instead? Is that something you would consider, or are you just looking to either leave it empty or demolish at this point?
Yeah, well, right now, unfortunately, due to market conditions, even if the building was fully renovated with a release sign, we wouldn't be able to lease it. It would sit empty. It would cost millions of dollars to get the building up to standard to even have an occupancy permit due to its state. And this is basically due to the state we bought it in. It was occupied, but we wouldn't be able to get it reoccupied. We don't have any interest in that. Economically, that would not make sense. We want to move towards redevelopment. We want to put a 200-unit residential building on this site, which is allowed by the zoning, and this is just one step into that direction. And I think that everyone might agree that that's going to be good for the city to have, and very likely an affordable component as well. So we just want to de-risk the site, and with that building gone, it takes a big risk for developers, and you'll definitely see a proposal for a new tower within 5 years.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Member Madigan has a question for you.
Yes, good morning. What would prevent adapting the building for residential?
The building right now is commercial, so to do a change of use like that, you would have to bring it up to current codes. Also, you'd probably only get, given that it's a two-story building with no ability to have windows on at least two sides, you might get 8 units, and then that would prevent us from building 200 residential units. So it doesn't. I'd rather do the 200, with all due respect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. So thank you so much for answering questions to the committee today. We can now move to questions for staff. Member Legault.
Yes, hi. I was wondering if there are any opportunities for commemoration of perhaps the 1956 version of the building. I'm not sure of the dates of when the Bank Street Heritage Conservation District came to be, but my understanding is this building is only under Part 5, right? So it doesn't have an individual designation, but there might be some interest, kind of like in the courtyards. You know how the NCC has done like the tin house or just a plaque? Has there been any discussion about that?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think that's a great idea. And I think, as Michael said, I think he's open to a lot of things. So we would definitely consider that. And we do have great photographs, as you saw in the slides, of that former building. So yes, we would be open to including that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councillor Troster.
Thank you so much. I'm just wondering if staff could speak. I also see Court Curry is here, about what you see as the potential for this site, what conversations you've had with the owner, and what that timeline could look like.
Feel free to jump in after Court. However, yeah, we do believe that this will really reanimate the site. We assessed the building itself and felt that it had little left of its integrity and made little contribution to the district. So we feel that this interim condition, while it provides seating, trees, mulch at present, it could also include more animation through conversations with the BIA, which I think will be really great. And based on the discussions you've had after your street seats conversations, I think it would be a real benefit if we looked at to do something similar.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Court, do you have anything to add? Like, is this another potential site working with the BIA where we could do something like Metcalf Plaza or something similar?
Councillor, certainly we know this is a tough block. There's a large office tower that was demolished at the O'Connor side. There's the parking garage that failed, and there's this small block here. So yes, it's one of our priority areas within the downtown street revitalization and safety plan. So we'll look for those synergies. And I think, as you heard from Mr. Beach today, we have a very willing proponent looking to partner with the city and your office on exploring the art of the possible.
It's great. And I like the idea of an off-leash dog area. If we can make that happen too, there's a lot of people who live in high rises with dogs nearby. So, okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Member Borns.
Hi, I realize POPs are becoming a more significant event, and I'm wondering if the staff involvement in it ought to be somebody in recreation or parks development as opposed to the heritage people. I mean, it's not worth changing at this point, but just a suggestion that the recreation and the parks development people ought to be developing some expertise in this area.
Through you, Chair. Yes, so we already have had some really early conversations with parks and urban design. This heritage permit is the only approval required for this application, but as I said, we'll continue to make sure that the POPs will adhere to city policies and work with parks and urban design as we proceed with the design. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Member Quinn.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick question for staff. The building had a fire which resulted in the removal of the third story. Was that in the 1960s?
Yes, through your chair, sometime between 1956 and 1962, I believe. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leeper.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Chair. So just in terms of process, I just want to make sure I understand what kind of leverage this committee and council have if we did want to require the preservation of this building. Would it be fair to say that if we wanted to require it, that we would have to demonstrate that it continues to be a key contributing building to the HCD?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. And can you play devil's advocate for me for a moment and try to make that argument that it does continue to be a key contributing building, or is it just too high a bar to try to achieve?
Yes, sure. So, as I said, this area was designated in 2000, and at the time, there was no requirement for an HCD plan that you see similarly to Centertown. Sorry, there's feedback. And so there's no guidelines, and well, there's limited guidelines, but no policies or any policies against demolition. So within the absence of that, we sort of undertook our own assessment, similar to how we would with any other district, where we looked at how it contributes to the district, the heritage values associated with Bank Street, and then its integrity. So we sort of did a three-tiered system, and through that we determined that Bank Street, it's really about it being a commercial main street. It speaks a lot about the buildings that actually front Bank Street, and that contribution. So with this not fronting and not originally being commercial, we felt that it didn't have the same values that are exhibited on Bank Street. And then in terms of the integrity, these storefront projections, the loss of that third story, there's really limited fabric left of that original construction. So we're really only looking at that second story red brick, and the carriageway is really all that we're seeing. So we feel that the integrity was lost through those alterations, and therefore it has limited contribution. So we would feel that moving forward, it would be deemed a non-contributing building in the updated plan. So that would be my response to that.
Okay, if we were to recommend refusal of the demolition and council were to refuse the designation, I'm guessing that the tribunal would follow much the same narrative that you have.
I might refer to legal staff on that. It's okay.
I would suspect the tribunal would take staff's advice.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. To help someone to understand the process and the statutes under which we're operating. The second question, with respect to programming that what will become, I guess, at least temporarily or for a while, the POPs, is there any funding available to do that? Like, is the city able to partner financially in programming that space?
Chair, will certainly work with the BIA and the councillor and the community, of course, to determine the appropriate use for the site. And then we are investing a significant amount of resources, as you'll see in the budget later this week, in Centertown and in downtown writ large. And there are opportunities through there to explore opportunities to partner with various organizations should it be an appropriate use of the site.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councillor Leeper, for those questions. Member Madigan.
Thank you, Chair. For the staff, do you have an idea of how many sort of vacant lots or POPs are in the area, and how long if any of those have been promised to be developed within a certain period of time, but have sort of just carried on for a long time?
I don't have a number. There is one, as Heritage Ottawa mentioned, directly to the east of this site, I believe. And then there's also one along Bank Street that is also programmed similarly to the Metcalf Plaza. So there are a few in the area, but I don't have a number.
Right. So just walking around the area, I know just there's a number of vacant lots and other sort of pops up, and some I know at least one location has been sort of a development site now for probably 15 years. You know, a building was demolished and then reprogrammed. Was there any consideration to retain the buildings and repurpose them and help the owner to make it as efficient and affordable as possible? I'm thinking of housing, like we are in a housing crisis. The project won't happen for 5 years, and who knows what happens in 5 years? The project might get delayed again, and we have an existing building. And if the building is only 2 years vacant, it might be still in fairly good structural condition to be adapted. I remember Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals were releasing a report that talks about rehabbing buildings and the benefits of it, which can be done a lot faster when you're trying to convert them to residential. So one thing's perhaps like you can get a balance that works to the benefit of the owner to maybe rehab them, turn them into residential, and keep the buildings there. I think perhaps sometimes we're emphasizing too much of the architectural aspect of the building. I do agree the building has lost a lot of its architectural integrity, which can be a factor to determine as we determine that it's not really worth to keep. But the building as it is now has survived many years. It was originally residential, has been adapted. It's, if other people were able to use that building, it would contribute to the life of the area. And what we're doing now is it has been shut down. Business, no one has an opportunity to use that as a residence or a business. And we'll be turning to the park, which has benefits, but it's a short-term benefits. There's a long-term need for green space downtown for people. I think the buildings as it is do contribute to that area. If they can be still reused right now, it would still contribute. There's also a possibility that in the future that the project that's being considered now won't actually happen. And, there are examples of that elsewhere in the downtown. For example, the Grant House, now occupied by Bechta, was expropriated by the city for road expansion, was to be demolished, was not demolished, was retained, and then now it's, a key part of the lot that it's still on and houses Bechta's restaurant. I think we should probably keep the building, particularly since it should be still good condition, try to adapt it and still contribute to the life of the area. Any comments to that?
Can I make a comment here, perhaps, through the chair? So I appreciate your thoughts on that, and I just wanted to let the committee know. I mean, you have a very limited question here from a heritage perspective. A non-contributing building under the district is requesting to be demolished because it ultimately will be something else. But it's sparking a much bigger conversation about vitality and street and rehabilitation of the downtown and neighborhood use and all the rest. I just wanted to draw a connection to something beyond this committee, which is the downtown revitalization plan that is steered by our city manager and involves several of our departments working together with the Board of Trade, with the local BIAs. And there's a number of initiatives underway to look at these issues comprehensively. And I think the issue of how do we utilize underutilized buildings and spaces as part of that work is absolutely top of mind. And I think your comments are very helpful in that context. I think that work is just starting to get some traction. We've been focusing a lot on affordable housing initiatives and some of the social service pieces that the city has done in the downtown and more to come. But yeah, I would just say that it's sort of outside of this team and the heritage question here, but it absolutely is going forward a question where how do we make the most of the built infrastructure that we have today to foster those sort of steps between the transformation of the neighborhood that's going to happen over a longer time.
Thank you. I'll re-clarify. I think the buildings do contribute to the heritage of the district. You can make a case either way, as the case has been made by staff that it does not. But I think a case can be made that the buildings do contribute and should be retained.
Thank you for your comments, Member Quinn.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear as to who was the woman that was just speaking. She didn't identify herself.
Oh, sorry, that was our GM of Planning, Marcia Wallace.
Okay, so just a note for those of us participating remotely, when people that we don't see on camera and they don't be identified, it would be really helpful if we knew who they were speaking all of a sudden out of, it's a voice with no ID. So just a little aside there, but I thank her for her comments, and then also just to say that I would like to take a chance to comment maybe when we're at that stage. So I don't have a question for staff.
Yeah, we appreciate the point of personal privilege, and you can definitely make your comments now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to begin by saying that, I found, I was very concerned about this demolition, a request to demolish. I know this building quite well. I drive along Slater Street and walk around that area of Bank Street. And I know the building very well. And so I was a little surprised when I read the Heritage Impact Assessment document, which suggests that it's somehow tucked around the corner, it isn't visible to cars or people. So I would dispute that, certainly. And I also question the emphasis that has been put on the fact that this building has lost its original integrity. Staff has confirmed that the fire that took place that resulted in the removal of the third story was in the 1960s. That is 60 years ago. And I would say that there aren't too many of us around anymore who remember what that building looked like originally. So how it appears, the form currently, not exactly, but somewhat, the shortened form, the loss of the third story. This is the building that defines that civic space and has for over 60 years. Nobody's walking around there longing for what they can't see anymore. It is a vernacular structure. It's not a landmark, as pointed out in the impact assessment, and nor was it ever intended to be. But other item, which I found rather interesting, which the Heritage Impacts Assessment concluded with, was the statement describing the current state of the Bank Street Heritage Conservation District as, and I quote, tentative, and that the loss of other historic buildings have seriously undermined the ability to interpret the district cohesively. Right there for me is the reason why we don't continue to remove extant historic buildings that are, regardless that they're only a category 3 and not a category 1, they did make the grade for a category 3. It did make the grade for a category 3. So all the more reason to retain it in order to preserve the integrity of what is left of that Heritage Conservation District. I think there are creative things that you can do. I don't know how long the Broccolinis have owned the building. I get the impression from what Mr. Beach said, it is only in the last couple of years. So we can't directly fault them for the neglect, which has resulted in the building's current appearance and structural state. But I also suspect that the purchase of the building 2 years ago was never, the intention was never to invest in the property. It was always to develop the site. So, and I'm also a little dismayed by the lack of imagination that the landscape plan that has been put before us, considering we were being asked to approve the demolition of a heritage building, that this rather boring pedestrian looking design with just a lot of promises of may do this and may do that does not, that does not garner a lot of confidence from my perspective. And I do appreciate the other social issues that have arisen. The point of the woman who was just speaking, that's kind of outside of our ballywick. My concern today is for the preservation of that property, that building, and at the very least, some aspect of the building that faces Slater Street. So to say that, a long way around saying that I will not be supporting the staff recommendation for demolition today. Thank you, Chair.
I appreciate those comments, and I appreciate the comments of all the members today. I think that, this committee often finds itself looking at scenarios where there needs to be balance, or, we're weighing the equilibrium between preservation principles and practical realities. I want to thank Councillor Leeper for his line of inquiry to staff around the impacts of the legislative constraints as well as the potential outcomes of tribunals. And because I think it is important for us to outline the structure that we are working within. And I think that our general manager of planning outlined that as well clearly, some of the environmental concerns and economic concerns that are emerging in terms of the revitalization of downtown. I do want to thank our staff for their assessment. I do trust the professional heritage assessments from our staff, and they have noted in their report that there has been extensive alterations that have compromised the heritage value of this site. And I appreciate the ward councillors' focus on being pragmatic, given the economic realities, structural constraints, and also the social challenges that confront such properties. So in this instance, though, my inclination is always towards preservation, I will be supporting this report. Is this report carried? I know that there are going to be dissents. Yeas and nays.
I'd like
All
yeas and nays.
recorded vote from Councillor Leeper.
Member Quinn,
Nay, no.
Councillor Kelly,
No.
Member Madigan,
No.
Councillor Troster,
Yes.
Member Legault,
Yes.
Councillor Leeper,
Yes.
Member Borns,
Yes.
Vice Chair Blunt,
We.
and Chair King.
Yes.
6 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you.
6 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you so much. This report will be submitted to council on December 10th, 2025. The next item before us is nomination of the Byward Market as a National Historic Site in honor of its 200th anniversary. We will have a presentation from staff.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et merci, Conseiller Plante. On est vraiment fiers d'avancer ce dossier aujourd'hui. Thank you to your leadership, Conseiller Plante and Councillor King. We've known in our city, Byward is a special place, the heart and soul of our city for more than 200 years. We're excited to advance this file to show all of Canada that. So today we've got a brief presentation that speaks to why we think this should be advanced. This clicks into a lot of corporate efforts, as you know, on celebrating Bytown's 200th and certainly raising Byward up. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Kim.
Great. Thanks, Court. Good morning, everyone. I'm not Christy Walker. She is away today, so I'm filling in on her behalf to give an overview of the nomination for the market as a National Historic Site. If we go to the next slide. So National Historic Sites fall under the National Program of Historical Commemoration, and that's a federal program that allows for the recognition of sites associated with people, places, or events of national significance related to Canadian history or culture. There are more than 1,000 sites across the country, and through them, Canadians can appreciate and understand our rich, diverse, and complex histories. Nominations are reviewed by Parks Canada and the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada, who determines the success of an application. So should a nomination be approved, a commemorative plaque would be prepared and installed within the area. You may have seen these around the city. This, of course, is for Notre Dame Basilica. There are also 25 others in the city, National Historic Sites, including Beechwood Cemetery, Rideau Hall, Laurier House, Parliament Buildings, and the National Arts Centre, just to name a few. And of course, most recently, another National Historic District in Rockcliffe Park. If we go to the next slide. Oh, do we still have the English version?
And I think we've lost it from the Zoom presentation, so we'll just wait for it to be restored.
Sure.
And I think the presentation is back.
Okay, perfect. So a National Historic Site in comparison, or rather a National Historic District in comparison to a National Historic Site can represent a collection of buildings, structures, and landscapes, which together tell a story. And we believe that the Byward Market as a district would do just that. So the designation as a National Historic District would be a really great opportunity to continue to conserve the built character of the market and its history, to further reinforce its distinct sense of place, and importantly, to bring awareness of the significance of the market from a national perspective. So of course, the Byward Market is already designated locally as a Heritage Conservation District under the Ontario Heritage Act, with many buildings that are also individually designated. So locally, that significance is well recognized, but through this nomination, there's a great opportunity to capture that national importance. So this could bring other opportunities for tourism, and it could be leveraged for economic development for the city as well. Further, as Court mentioned, in 2027, being the 200th anniversary for the Byward Market, we're hoping a potential approval of this nomination could tie in well with those celebrations. In terms of impact to property owners and business owners, should this nomination be successful, it would be entirely commemorative. Staff have carefully considered the proposed boundary so that it overlaps with properties that are already designated municipally. So there would be no additional process for owners to seek approval. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of set the stage for rationale for the nomination, a bit of historic context. So the market was established in 1827, only 1 year after the construction of the Rideau Canal began, which prompted the first permanent colonial settlement of Bytown. It was therefore one of the first public markets and Ottawa's oldest commercial area, and it continues to serve as a commercial hub in the city today. The Byward Market has a rich cultural heritage and played a significant role in shaping the city as the national capital. If we go to the next slide, in order to be recognized as a National Historic Site, the Historic Sites and Monuments Board outlines a number of basic criteria to assess a nomination. And a detailed assessment has been included in the report as document 2, but generally the area must be directly associated with nationally significant aspects of Canadian culture and history and be 40 years or older. For a district, the area and its building structures and spaces together, they should demonstrate national architectural significance, technological or social significance, and it must convey that sense of history that's distinct from its immediate surroundings. So for this reason, the nomination must speak to integrity and also have clearly defined boundaries. So staff have determined that the Byward Market strongly meets the criteria. It's, of course, just about 200 years old. It's comprised of buildings and structures and spaces that reflect a range of architectural styles, but also its evolution over time. It's associated with nationally important individuals and events, and together they all reflect, or rather together it reflects nationally important themes, including Indigenous history, Ottawa as that important lumber town, the commercial hub, French-Canadian culture and history and bilingualism, just to name a couple here this morning. If we go to the next slide, just to speak about the boundary, to demonstrate that sense of place, staff have looked at a proposed boundary in order to strongly tell those and reflect those themes. So the proposed boundary would largely mirror the existing Heritage Conservation District for Byward Market. It would also extend into the Lower Town West Heritage Conservation District. It would, so to the north, it would include the south side of Geek Avenue, from east of Sussex to west of Perron, the south side of St. Patrick Street, and north side of Murray Street, west of Cumberland. It would also come south to include the north side of Rideau Street between Sussex and Dalhousie Street. And that's really to capture, as I mentioned, those themes, those nationally significant themes, and also some of the Part 4 designations as well. If we go to the next slide, just quickly in terms of engagement, this nomination has been the result of consultation with a number of community partners, stakeholders, kicked off back in the fall with a stakeholder meeting with Councillor Plant, Councillor King, Community Association, Byward Market District Authority, just to name a few, as well as a recent publication in the Lower Town Echo as well to speak to the nomination. We've received support from these partners and general public support as well. If we go to the next slide, just in terms of next steps, from here, should council approve the recommendations associated with the report, staff will initiate some consultation with our host nations, also circulate the nomination package for comment and consolidate those comments for inclusion. And staff expect to submit the nomination in January, so next year, for Parks Canada to review, with the hopes of a decision from the Historic Sites and Monuments Board in 2027. And just finally, to conclude on the last slide there, staff's assessment has determined that the Byward Market strongly meets the criteria for designation as a National Historic District, and recommend that council endorse the submission of this nomination and thereby provide consent on behalf of property owners for that proposed boundary. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the hard work and the responsiveness to, I know, Councillor Plant's request to forward this initiative. We do have delegations. I think we do have one delegation, so I see that hands were raised. But we do have Samantha Sigler and Jillian Stewart from the property group who are registered to delegate. So I don't know if they are available online. And I think Jillian Stewart just needs to unmute, and then we can proceed with the delegation. And Jillian, you just need to unmute. And we're just working out some technical difficulties, so just give us a moment.
Hi there, sorry about that. Just had some technical issues.
There we go. You can proceed.
Can you all hear me now?
We can.
Okay, perfect. I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Samantha Sigler and the Properties Group. We are stakeholders with significant real estate holdings in the Byward Market, especially along William Street. In addition, we're representing a group of landlords who own commercial properties in the market. So we're here today on our own behalf, as well as on behalf of Ambassador Realty, Todd Brown, John Borston, and Alan Kufsky. Ambassador Realty owns all of Byward Market Street between George and York Streets. Todd Brown and John Borston are both respected restaurant owners and operators, as well as property owners in the city. And Alan Kufsky owns real estate in the market, and his family has for many decades. We just want to say that we recognize the Byward Market's vital role in shaping Ottawa's identity, and as well as its economic significance. It's been a trading hub for hundreds of years, and we want to see it continue and thrive as one of Ottawa's true economic and touristic jewels. And so we strongly support the city's efforts to pursue the domination of the Byward Market as a National Historic Site, recognizing its unique character and historical significance. These properties have been significant in shaping Ottawa's identity, and we really do think that this designation would help pursue this and preserve this legacy. So we just want to commend the City of Ottawa for taking this important step.
Thank you so much for your comments. I don't see any raised hands, so thank you so much for the delegation and for the support of this item. We did receive a correspondence from Heritage Ottawa, seeing that we have no other delegations. Questions to staff and comments? Vice Chair Plante.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. I was just wondering, is the staff report that's going in about this going to talk about some of the not so nice things that's happened in and around the Byward Market, such as the destruction of King Edward, the Grébert plan, or the overconcentration of social services? Is any of that going to be mentioned, or are we just sunshine and rainbows?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I know we've had some conversations about this in the past, and certainly this is really an opportunity to celebrate the history of the market. I think our team also, we've been, there's a desire to tell a lot of those not so bright and shiny histories as well. And I think there's some opportunities, through some forthcoming projects that can speak to those as well. And I think if there's an interest in speaking to some of those contemporary issues, certainly we can forward those through the nomination package to Parks Canada for sure.
No, I appreciate that, because it shouldn't just be the councillor that's sort of talking about these things. There has to be a citywide recognition of them as well. So I do appreciate that you guys are open to doing that, because I think it helps paint the full picture of the Byward Market. And quite frankly, what makes it so special is that it's had its ups and downs. And of course, I'm biased, but I always think it's on the way up. So I do want to thank you for that. Thank you, Court, to all your staff as well, who took this idea and just ran with it as soon as I Googled what this was. And I would just encourage everybody, if you have a moment, to just look at the site of the designated historic sites. They also have people, they have events. You really get a good picture of Canadian history just browsing through that site. And if there is any way we can get a Heritage Minute out of this, I am supporting that. And it's carried, Chair, it's carried. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much. And if you'll indulge me, Chair, I do have a couple of requests coming out of my comments, but I wanted to point people in the room to the hallway of mayors, who you'll see when you come out of this room. And one of the really striking facts about the names on those paintings is that they are a mix of English and Irish and French. And that's not an accident. In 1849, and forgive me, I do appreciate the indulgence, Mayor, or sorry, Chair. In 1849,
I like the promotion.
Yeah, I like it. We were Upper and Lower Canada were coming out of the rebellions. And Lord Elgin was coming to Ottawa. He was thinking of making Bytown the capital of Canada. And the Tory mayor, Lord Hervey, was very upset about the Rebellion Losses Bill. And so Mayor Hervey and his friends arranged to greet Lord Elgin at the site. And I hope I have the address right. I think it's 62 York, which is one of the properties down here. And a riot ensued. And the riot happened for over the course of the next 3 days. And it finally wound up that the Irish and French of Lower Town confronted the English who came in from places like Richmond. There were cannon involved, and the two sides faced each other across what was then called the Sappers Bridge. And the British military from what was then called Barracks Hill, which is Parliament Hill, intervened, and the two parties never wound up having a more violent confrontation than just the Stones. That was the Stony Monday riot. And coming out of the Stony Monday riot, the residents of Bytown decided we better calm down temperatures. They created a constabulary. I think the decision to build a jail came out of the Stony Monday riot, because previous to that, people were transported to Perth with lots of opportunities for escape. And ever since then, you've had this peace between the Irish and the French and the English that I would suggest, because of the accommodation that each side gave to each other, has extended today to a much more multicultural city. And the friendliness of this city towards its multiculturalism is, I think, a result of Bytown's formative history. And it's tied to so many things. It's tied to the rebellion, the entire history of Canada, Confederation, the decision to make Bytown the capital of Canada. And my request of staff, coming out of that long story, which I apologize for, I am very interested in the Stony Monday riot. And of course, 62 York has been preserved. It is one of the properties group's properties. And it's now a Starbucks. And for a long time, those of you who are have a longer memory will remember it as Stoney's, the bar. But my request to staff is that when we request that this be a National Heritage District, that we contemplate making the Stony Monday riot a really important part of that. It is both a national and local history that I think needs to be recognized nationally. So I hope that that will be part of the application that we make. And then the second part of it is, that Stony Monday riot finally wound up on the Sappers Bridge. Is there wriggle room to include the bridge over the Rideau Canal in front of the Chateau Laurier, north of the War Memorial, as part of the boundary? We can talk about that more over the course of the next week or so, but I think because that formative event in our nation's history and in our local history finally concluded on the Sappers Bridge, I would like to recognize that as being part of the Heritage District. So those are my two questions and asks of staff. And if anyone wants to talk more about the Stony Monday riot, I'll be here for a while after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Member Legault.
Yes, thank you. I don't think anyone here is here to dispute the significance of this district, and I think it's very exciting and maybe long overdue. I have a two-part question. One, is this the first National Historic Site designation the City of Ottawa has sought from Parks Canada? And if not, what are the other National Historic Site designations you've received?
Through your chair, thanks for the question. There are 26 National Historic Sites across the city, but to my knowledge, I don't know that the city has brought one forward before this one.
Okay. So my second part of the question is if the city intends to create or provide any additional grant funding for this National Historic Site designation for the property owners of the Byward Market in order to upkeep the actual heritage value of that district.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think at this point, the financial incentives that the city has. So we have a heritage grant program for restoration. We also have a community improvement program that goes together with rehabilitation and development to facilitate adaptive reuse. So those are the existing incentives that we do have. I think at this point, there's no discussions about a further grant program. I don't know, Cord, if you want to add to that.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I'll layer on. As part of the Housing Acceleration Task Force recommendations, there was a recommendation that staff look at expanding our facade program citywide. So we're running a pilot right now in Centertown, which is still underway, but it's been fairly successful. So Byward is the next neighborhood that we would look at expanding that program to really surgically pinpoint facades and attributes on on Byrod's vital streets.
Okay, that's great. I would encourage more growth in that area, because we all know that, you know, these designations are great for public exposure, but, you know, we need money. We need money to be invested in these sites, and we need long-term maintenance money that comes annually. And without that, I think a lot of things, they die and then they come up for demolition and our hands are kind of tied. So I would really encourage the city to be proactive with this designation. There are other funding possibilities outside of the city, of course, but it would be great to see the leadership from the city in this respect.
Chair. Hi, this is Marcia Wallace, the General Manager of Planning, Development, and Building Services. I know you can't see me. I forgot about that. I just wanted to let the committee know that there is a report coming on the Byward Market revitalization and some of the cross-sectoral activity that public realm and the heritage aspects of this is a tie-in to that work. It's due to come to council in early 2026, so Q1. So it might be of interest to this committee and those who watch this committee. That report will be articulating what, in fact, the city is going to do and has done and will be doing in the near term in terms of trying to put investments into Byward.
Appreciate that intervention. Vice Chair Plant.
Yes, hi. My question was, and I know you said there's 26 other sites. Do you know if Ottawa also has the people and the events as well? I was just curious. I didn't look, but
I would have to double check. I would imagine there is a mix of people, sites, and events.
okay, because I'm getting a little bit off topic, Chair. I apologize. I thought, Councillor Toster, I may reach out to you as our LGBTQ liaison because I know Paul Fournier's his story occurred. He lived in our ward, but it occurred in your ward. So I may reach out to you about that in the future because I think that's a very important story to tell for the LGBTQ community and the RCMP involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Quinn.
Thank you, Chair. Just to come back, circle back for a moment to my colleague, Ms. Legault's comments about funding. Just also to get on record the fact that Parks Canada has a national cost sharing program for heritage places, which offers up to 50% grants up to a maximum of $250,000 to non-federal owners of National Historic Sites in Canada. That funding, if anything, should be increased, but there is, I totally agree and support that there is a very big need for financial support for National Historic Sites in Canada. But I would also say that the city should throw that back on the federal government and encourage them not to download if they're going to be honoring these places as having national historic significance. They should back that up with funding like they are doing with the National Cost Sharing Program, but you know, even in more, it shouldn't all land on trickle down onto the owners. So that's just to add to the info. But congratulations, full marks for this. Fantastic. Thanks. Love the Stony Monday story, and really wonderful initiative. Thank you, Councillor Plante and staff.
Thank you so much, Member Quinn, for those comments. Seeing no other. Oh, sorry. Okay. Member Madigan.
Thank you, Chair. Great work. Fully support this initiative. I really appreciate the history lesson for Council Lieber, and the suggestion to add it to the site. I probably wouldn't, not to delay it, but I think the bridge itself could be mirrored as submission as a National Historic Site submission. So congratulations. One question though, once we get around to, hopefully it will be designated, will there be any particular sort of street intersection or intersections that become the portal into the site, where a commemoration or additional sort of maybe celebration of the site would be built?
So if the nomination is successful, it does come along with those commemorative plaques. And so that would be installed. Typically, they're installed within the district or as part of whichever the site may be. Typically, they do an unveiling of the plaque. So I think that could be something that we, of course, share around to members of this committee and members of the community if there's interest in participating there too.
Okay, thank you. So I guess in the future, once the site hopefully is designated, at that point, the process to determine key locations to place a plaque or plaques will then be determined.
It's a good question. I think we need to go back and have some conversations with the Historic Sites and Monuments Board at that point, just to determine the appropriate location of where that would be installed.
Thank you for clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And I do want to, seeing no hands raised now, I do want to thank, firstly, Member Quinn for really pointing out the funding opportunities that are available with the federal government, as well as the need for more advocacy to strengthen that funding. And I know that there have been conversations in the local community as well as the federal level and on creating more investments. And I think that that's very important to underline that we do need to advocate for that. And I also want to thank Councillor Leeper for the history lesson as well around Stony Monday. I think it's actually quite important, frankly, because often I think our focus on history as a society isn't there. We're often very ahistorical about our geography, and we're not thinking about the history behind it. And so that's why I also want to thank staff as well as Vice Chair Plant for moving this forward. For nearly 200 years, the Byward Market has been the heart of our city. It predates Ottawa and the country's existence. And this is where, as Councillor Leeper pointed out, French, Irish, and English cultures converged and created the bilingual character that defines our national capital today. This is where generations of immigrants and working class people, as Councillor Plant was noting, first found community and commerce in Canada. The market meets every criterion that Parks Canada has established for National Historic Site designation, and I think it does so exceptionally well. The 200th anniversary in 2027 presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to formally recognize this significance. By acting now, we ensure the nomination process aligns with our commemoration plans. And this isn't just about looking backwards, it's about securing the market's legacy for the next 200 years. I want to assure property owners and residents that this is an honorific designation. There are no new regulations, no additional permit processes, no transfer of ownership or management. The properties within the boundary are already protected under our Heritage Conservation District framework. What this designation does provide is both national and international recognition, enhanced tourism appeal, and the pride of being part of a national historic site. Property owners and businesses can market themselves as part of Canada's officially recognized heritage. I really do appreciate staff's candor about the timeline constraints for Indigenous consultation. While I wish we had had more time for this critical engagement, I note that Parks Canada will conduct their own thorough consultation as part of their review, that the city is committed to meaningful Indigenous engagement for the 200th anniversary celebrations, and that the nomination itself acknowledges the market's significance to the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. This designation doesn't preclude, in fact, it enhances our opportunity to ensure Indigenous voices and perspectives are centered in how we tell the market's story. The nomination has also seen the support of both of the ward councillor, many city councillors, the mayor's office, the Lower Town Community Association, Heritage Ottawa, the Byward Market, BIA, and numerous other stakeholders. And I think when we see that type of unanimity around the table, we know that we're moving in the right direction. That broad coalition reflects the market's importance around the community. I think staff has thoughtfully considered this report, and I am pleased that it is before us for consideration today. because it really does ensure that the Byward Market's 200th anniversary is marked not just with celebration, but with the formal national recognition it so clearly deserves. So I am definitely supportive of this motion. Is this item carried? Carried. Thank you so much. So this report will be submitted to council on December 10th, 2026 for its consideration. Seeing that we are at the end of our substantive items, there are no in-camera items. In terms of notices of motions, are there any? Seeing none, are there any inquiries? Seeing none, is there any other business? Since there's no other business, we are adjourned. The next meeting of the Built Heritage Committee has been scheduled for Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. And I know I'll be seeing many of you tomorrow for the budget, but for those that I might not see, we definitely want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays to everybody. And thank you so much for the really amazing conversations that we've had about heritage and history over this last year. And I'm looking forward for those conversations in the new year. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Happy holidays.